Hello and welcome to Byju's exam prep. So today we will be having a webinar on ecology and environment. Last time it got delayed by 1 hour because of certain technical glitches. So hope I'm audible as well as visible to you all. Please confirm that I'm audible as well as visible to you all so that we can start the session. Done. Done. Perfect. So one announcement is there. On 2nd of the May, you will have art and architecture webinar. So the one which has postponed. So 2nd May, you will have art and architecture webinar. Right. So that will be on the 2nd of May. So today we'll start the ecology and environment webinar. And three topics which were left out on the first webinar, we'll just glance them quickly. We'll glance them quickly. The first one is about the conference of parties of CMS, that is migratory species. Remember, when we talk about migratory species, so migratory species plays a very important role. So migratory species, it may be about the birds or it can be the animals which migrate from one area to another area, that is from source till the destination. Till the destination. So these species, the birds and animals, they travel through air or through water or on the land. And they travel voluntarily. Now, many students make a confusion in marking CMS with sites. Sites is about not volunteer movement. It is about trafficking of the animals. It is about what we say smuggling of the plants and animal species. That is called as sites. Sites is different from CMS. CMS is something which is the voluntary movement of the birds and animals from source to the destination. So these are needed to be protected and conserved. And for that, international convention is there, which is referred as Bonn Convention, or it is also referred as conservation of migratory species. Both are same, conservation of migratory species. And the countries which have signed that are referred as conference of parties. And these conference of parties, they meet once in 3 years. Once in 3 years. So the last meeting was in India. Last meeting was in India. And the present one, which was 14th meeting, was in Samarkand, Uzbekistan. And the theme of this conference of parties is nature knows no border. So that is the theme of the 2023 and 24 convention. The conference of parties which met there. Now these migratory species, they always make their journey annually. So they generally make their journey annually. It means every year they migrate. Every year they migrate. And this migration is mainly for breeding or sometimes resting, or it is for molting. It is for molting. What is molting? Molting means shedding their feathers and skin. Molting means they shed their skin and feathers so that the new skin and new feather can grow here. So that is where annually they will have a migration. We refer that as the cycle. Not only the birds, even many marine organisms make the migration. Take an example of olive ridley turtle. Example, the olive ridley turtle, which migrate from India, and it reaches to Pacific Ocean through Atlantic Ocean and again come back there. And it makes nesting in Rushikulya River, Gahirmata River in Odisha. So they always migrate, and they have many ways in which they reach their targets. Either they use the Earth's magnetic field, or they have their senses to reaching there, or with their previous data. So hence these migratory species, they need to be protected and conserved throughout their journey from the source where they originate and where they end, that is destination. And for that, it is referred as COP of CMS. Now, why these migratory species are important? Sometimes they may ask. So these migratory species, they play an essential role in maintaining the global ecosystems, that is food chains and food webs. And they also play important role in pollinating plants, which help in generating the yield, increasing the yield. And they transport key nutrients, that is, they play a very important role in biogeochemical cycles. Biogeochemical cycles. That is nitrogen, phosphorus, etc. So they play a very important role in that. Now, specifically when you talk about the birds, they move from one area to another area by having many routes, and we refer them as international flyways. International flyways. Now, in the context of international highways or flyways, they have identified 9 international flyways are there. 9 flyways are there. And out of these 9 flyways, 3 passes through India. Out of these 9, 3 flyways, they passes through India. Through India. And very important among them is the Central Asian flyway. Among them, very important one is the Central Asian flyway. Asian flyway. Is that clear? And more emphasis is given to make sure that the Central Asian flyway is protected throughout its path. And for that reason, the CMS has classified the species into 2 appendixes. It has classified the species into 2 appendices, which provides different degrees of protection and conservation to them. Now, the first one is where the migratory species are threatened. Appendix 1, which consists of the threatened migratory species. Threatened migratory species. And Appendix 2. Appendix 2 consists of the migratory species which needs international support or cooperation. Migratory species which need international cooperation. International cooperation. So these are the 2 appendices which are associated with the CMS. Is it clear? Now, the outcome of that is very important one. Now, certain questions are asked in the mains. What are the major problems associated with the migratory species? One is overexploitation and habitat loss. This is mainly due to deforestation and large amount of construction activities. Then pollution. Pollution, it can be water pollution, it can be air pollution, etc., which becomes threat to their health aspects. Because sometimes when the bird reaches to any lake, if the water of the lake is contaminated, it will have an impact. Example, if the lake, if it is having the water which is contaminated or polluted water, it will become a threat to the species. Then climate change. So because of climate change, we find the birds are unable to reach to their destinations, and this climate change is having a huge impact on all the parameters. It may be with reference to the temperature, which is creating heat waves, which can be cold waves, and other atmospheric phenomenon which are associated with the climate change, where they are finding it difficult to locate their roots. Difficult to locate their roots. Then invasive species. So invasive species are also become threat because these invasive species, they colonize their habitats. They colonize the habitats. And hence they pose a threat for the migratory species there. Deep sea mining. Now recently we have seen that the International Seabed Authority has provided permit for mining of the polymetallic nodules in the deep sea. Polymetallic nodules in the deep sea. And this poses threat to the migratory species because they damage their habitats. They destroy their surrounding areas or destroy their location. Right. And already this International Seabed Authority has given more than 35 permits, which may start mining by 2025, And India has also secured the permit to do deep sea mining in the south of Indian Ocean. Right. Then light pollution. This light pollution has become a major threat since from a decade. It has become a major threat because high intensity lights, they make the birds to feel that they are not in the night, because generally the birds, when they reach their habitats in the night, they seek the ideal places to locate. So because of high intensity light, their nesting places are deviated from their path. So high intensity light. So because of that, they miss their nesting places. And they become threat for the many animals which can hunt them, which can kill them when they miss their nesting places. And illegal seed mining or sand mining in the coastal areas, which can affect to the migratory species like the Ridley turtles. Right. And many accidents when they collide with the towers, dams, etc. When they collide with the light towers, dams, etc. Is it clear? So this is something which is referred as the major threats to the migratory species. Now, next is important outcomes of COP14. So please read them carefully. It urged the parties to make and mitigate the climate change issues, settle the climate change issues, so that they become less impact to the migratory species. Adopt new initiatives on jaguar conservation. Jaguar conservation. And more dominant jaguars are found in the Pantanal wetlands in South America, right? More conservation of jaguars, and that too bringing them under the sites. And for that, they have made a roadmap, Jaguar 2030 roadmap, to protect and conserve these jaguar species. Then it agreed on new Central Asian flyway, so that the birds which are flying through the Central Asian flyway, they will have more conservation efforts. And remember, this passes through India. This passes through India. Is that clear? New guidelines addressing to the impact of light pollution on migratory species. They have introduced for the first time, new guidelines were introduced, so that the intensity of light should be reduced, the timings of the light should be reduced, so that the birds or migratory animals should not lose their paths, right? And they agreed a list of proposing 14 migratory species to be given more priority in protecting in Appendix 1 and Appendix 2. Then a new action plan for aquatic species was there. One is for Atlantic humpback dolphin, the hawksbill turtle, and angel shark. So these all are facts in the context of prelims if they ask. Read them, don't by heart, just read them. If anything is asked in the statement, just mark them. Apart from that, for the first time, it released the World Migratory Species Report. So it is the first ever report on migratory species. Migratory species, right? So here, when we talk about the first ever migratory species, it shows that 22% of the species which are listed in the Appendix 1, they are under threatened with extinction. It means if we don't protect them, then they will be ceased to exist. Now, this is based on the data which is accumulated over a period of a time. And here, the categories are IUCN categories, which we refer them as extinct, extinct in wild, threatened, etc. 97% of the fish listed under conventions are at risk. So these factuals can be asked in the statements in prelims. You don't have to remember them for the mains. In the prelims, if they ask, then 82%, that is 142 out of 180 listed species of Appendix 1, they are facing the threat of extinction, while 76% show declining population trends. So these are the state of the species. State of the species in Appendix 1 and Appendix 2, right? So 18% of Appendix 2 species, which needs international cooperation, which are facing the threat. So please read these threats with the data. In prelims, they may ask statement 1, statement 2. Which of the statements are correct? Statement 1, statement 2, or both, or none of the above. So in that case, you have to be knowing the data. Of the 3,339 non-CMS species, non-CMS, it means those species which are not covered under conservation of migratory species, 277 are considered to be globally threatened, and another 122 species have been categorized as near threatened. So it gives the IUCN state of all the species plus certain species which are not covered in the CMS. Right. 3 of the 4 CMS listed species are impacted by habitat loss. So this is how they are lost, reason for their losses: habitat loss, degradation, and fragmentation. While 7 of 10 species are victims of overexploitation, because our ecological footprints have increased, population has increased, needs have increased. So hence we find over exploitation of these resources are seen, right? 51% of the key biodiversity areas, the protected areas, key biodiversity areas, which were listed as the migratory animals to take shelter there, they are do not having any type of protection. It means they always are under having a threat, maybe because of habitat loss or maybe for degradation of the regions there, right? So just read about these factual data. Then key recommendations to conserve and recover. So this can be asked in your mains. What are the ways in which the CMS or the migratory species are protected and conserved as per the report? So here it is said that establishment of key biodiversity areas in the pathways. So set up more biodiversity areas so that the birds will have proper area where they can rest, where they can molt, where they are safe from any type of hunting activities. Reduce infrastructure that impact migration pathways like dams, high towers, etc. Is it clear? Create corridors of protected lands. So when we create the corridors, then they will make a hassle-free, uninterrupted movement of the migratory species. Uninterrupted movement of migratory species. Right. Ensure restoration of at least 30% of degraded land and marine areas. Now, this was also seen as one of the important outcome of the Montreal Protocol, what we refer them as the Kunming-Montreal Protocol. Kunming-Montreal, which was COP of CBOD. COP to conservation of biodiversities, which was held in China, followed in Canada. So there they said that 30% of the protected area should be covered by 2030. Right. So map migration corridors to protect the animals from human activities. So you can map them with certain instruments, which can give certain data, maybe by using GPS systems or maybe by using the cameras which are run by artificial intelligence, so that they can trace the movement of the migratory species. So these are some of the recommendations to conserve and protect them. Now, world's first black tiger safari. Now, this was again in the news in the month of February. The safari is set to locate near the Baripada in Mayurbhanj district. And this Mayurbhanj is in Odisha. And here we are talking about the Simlifal Tiger Reserve. Now, this black tiger reserve is due to a change in its melanin characteristics. So we refer that as pseudo-melanistic characteristics. Now, this is not the only first incidence of black tiger safaris or the tiger safaris. We also had the white tiger safari in India. So we also had the white tiger safari in India. And this white tiger safari in India, which was the first in the world, was in Madhya Pradesh, which started in Madhya Pradesh. And this white tiger is mainly due to lack of pigment pheomelanin. White tiger is because of lack of pigment pheomelanin. Pseudo means false. Now, this world's first white tiger safari was in Madhya Pradesh, and more specifically, it was in Mukundapur. Mukundapur. So India has the world's first white tiger safari in Madhya Pradesh. And now we'll be starting the world's first black tiger safari. And this will be in Simlifal due to a sort of pseudomelanistic impact. Now, when we talk about the tiger perspectives, you should remember certain points which are very important. If you take the tiger, the IUCN status of the tiger, sometimes many students make a mistake of mentioning that as a critically endangered. So this is endangered species. Endangered species. And it is Appendix 1 in CITES. It is classified as Appendix 1 of CITES. Now, in the context of India, we have the Project Tiger, which started in the year 1973. And this Project Tiger got the legal status under National Tiger Conservation Authority. It got legal status under National Tiger Conservation Authority. National Tiger Conservation Authority, which provided a legal status to the Project Tiger. Along with providing the legal status, this National Tiger Conservation Authority, it coordinates between the center and states to protect or to maintain the tiger reserves. So this coordinates between the center and states in maintaining the Project Tiger. And last year, that is 2023, we completed the 50 years of the tiger reserves. We completed 50 years of the Project Tiger. Right. And to have the data of tigers, we started tiger census from 2006, which is a cycle of 4 years. 4 years. The first one was in the year 2006. The second was in the year 2010. Third was in the 2014. Fourth, 2018. And fifth is 2022. Now, according to the data, the fifth tiger census, where the average tiger population in India is 3,682. Average population of the tigers in India is 3,682. And this makes the 75% of global tigers. 75% of global tigers in India. In India. Is that clear? So this is some rough idea about the tiger. So tiger is an endangered species. It is classified as Appendix 1 under CITES. And Project Tiger started in 1973. And National Tiger Conservation Authority provided legal status to that. And it also coordinates between the center and states to maintain the Project Tiger. And the recent census has given that the number of tigers have increased in India, and they make 75% of the global tigers. Right. Now, something about this black tiger. So this is referred as pseudomelanistic. That is due to certain pigment which has increased in its proportion. Genetic condition in which increased the production of melanin. Melanin means the skins, the color of the skin. Right. Skin that produces hair, eyes. So due to increase in the concentration of that, so this increase in the black straps to the tigers. But in the context of white tigers, the pigment pheomelanin was lacking. Due to lack of pigment pheomelanin, the tigers were white in the colors or somewhat reddish in their skins. Now, this is because of over secretion of the pigment, and that pigment is referred as transmembrane amniopektase. transmembrane amniopeptase, which led to increasing or spreading of the black strips, creating a false type of pattern. We refer that as pseudo melanistic, false type of pattern. We refer that as pseudo melanistic. Is it clear? And these tigers, they were isolated from the other tigers. Simlifal tiger reserves, they isolated from other tigers, because of which the breeding was within themselves. So this is a result of inbreeding, breeding within themselves. Inbreeding. Breeding themselves. Is that clear? And apart from that, officially the first black tiger was recorded in the year 1975 and 1976. So this is the first incidences. And the present data says that as per 2022, we have around 16 individuals which were recorded in the Simlifal National Park. And this is how the pseudomelanistic tiger looks like. False type due to over-secretion of the melanin, which creates the black strips. STR means strip. Strips. So these are called as the strips. National Tiger Conservation Authority, which provides what we refer them as the statutory status, and it is one of the agency, it is one of the authority which is responsible for conducting the census. It is not a permanent, it is increase in the melanin concentration. Increase in the melanin concentration. Now there is something about invasive species. Now, when we talk about invasive species, please understand this invasive species has become a major threat in the present scenarios. Invasive species has become a major threat. And this is also referred as bioinvasion. Bioinvasion. Now, generally, when we talk about invasive species, any pathogen or any animal or any plant which is introduced out of its native range, which is introduced out of its natural range or native range into some other areas, and where it has introduced, it poses economic losses. Where it is introduced, it poses economic losses. It becomes threat to the native species. Threat to native species where it has been introduced. And over a period of a time, it may eliminate the native species. Eliminate the native species. Native species. Now these are introduced either accidentally or they are introduced deliberately. They are introduced deliberately. Now the major problem associated with these invasive species are they don't have any natural enemy. So they don't have any enemies, no enemies. And they can survive in any type of food and climate. They can survive in any type of food and climate. So they adjust in any condition. They adjust in any condition. And because of that, they disperse very fast. They spread or disperse very fast. They disperse or spread very fast, which becomes a major threat for the native species. It is just like colonizing that particular area. It inhibits the growth of the native species. And that is the reason why This invasive species is referred as one of the major threat for loss of biodiversity. Loss of biodiversity. Is that clear? And recently, a report has been also given which highlights the degree of economic losses which is done by invasive species. Invasive species, right? They are. The report says that 80% of the countries which are targeted related to managing the alien species in their biodiversity, they make the target, but they don't create the infrastructure. So only 17% have national laws and regulations which specifically addresses that. So please remember, 80% of the countries have target plans, but the implementation is only 17%. Very dangerous condition. Then 45% of all countries do not invest in biological invasion. They don't invest in controlling the bio invasion. They don't invest in that. Understand this. As many as 200 new invasive alien species. IAS means invasive alien species are reported each year, and awareness can help to control them. But there is no awareness. There is no awareness. Then, if we talk about economic losses, if we talk about economic losses, the losses are increasing compared to the 4 decades. It has become quadruple, 4 times. If you see the global economic loss due to invasive species, maybe due to threat to the food perspective, decrease in the yield, or losses in the pot or in the frame of sometimes when the elephant enters into agricultural field, so it brings huge losses there. Now why elephant enters there? Because it do not have food. Now why do not have food? Because of the alien species which have entered there. Now, this elephant, when it enters into agriculture field, it destroys the agricultural crops. It is called as economic losses. Understand this. This is a forest area where we have large number of vegetations are there, and here herbivore animals are there, like elephants is there, deers are there, right? Now, when the invasive species covers the entire habitats, then elephants will not have any food. Elephants find difficult to reach to the water bodies, so they leave their habitat and enter into agricultural tracts. So there they will destroy the crops. The deers will also move from their areas and they reach to the agricultural fields. Now, as the herbivore animals leave their habitats, in the same pattern, we find certain carnivorous animals are also there, like tiger, cheetahs, leopards. When they don't find sufficient herbivore animals, they will also leave their area and enter into settlements. And ultimately, that leads to man animal conflict. That leads to man animal conflict. Animal conflict. So, hence, it is said that the losses, economic losses, have become quadruple, 4 times compared to 1970. Right. So here we find their losses are very high. Their losses are very high. Very high. Almost all $127 billion losses are seen compared to previous. It is accumulating. It is accumulating, right? Then about 60% of species extinctions are attributed to alien species. So it means they are eliminating the native species. They are eliminating the native species. Is that clear? Then, if you see the prominent, alien species or bio invasions, we come across the lantana camara. And this has spread in all the parts of India. It has spread in all the parts of India, and its global spread is also seen. And this lantana camera is used as many parts. So it is used in the context of fencing, It is used in the context of providing shadow. It is used in the context of creating decorative species or ornamentation. Ornamentation. And it has spread in all the parts of India, including the central, western Ghats, and also the eastern Ghats. It has spread in all the parts of India, including western Ghats, eastern Ghats, and central India. Very prominent one. Apart from that, if you take this place of Gujarat, in the Gujarat also we find alien species are there. Now, in the context of Gujarat, a very classical example is that introduction of Prosopis juliflora. Introduction of Prosopis juliflora, called as bubble tree. And this Prosopis juliflora was introduced deliberately with purpose. It was deliberate to protect the Bunny grassland from salt or saline water inundation. To protect Bunny grassland from saline water. And from there, it spread to entire Bunny grassland. Now, this Prosopis juliflora has become threat to Bunny grassland. Threat to Bunny grassland. Right. So we find many such incidences. Apart from that, we also have the plant, the senna plant, which has also been introduced in many parts. Now, this has become a major threat, more specifically to the entire Western Ghats. It has become a major threat to the entire Western Ghats, where these elephants or wild animals, they find shortage of food. They find shortage of food. And they also find it difficult to make their movement. Difficult to move. So hence, they leave the areas in the need of food and they enter into the neighboring areas. Entering into neighboring areas. Is that clear? So please understand this. And here the data says that the invasive species such as Lantana, Paranethium, etc., are causing ecological disruption. Now, if you take the data as per the 2024 data, 60% of natural habitats in India are covered with the invasive plants. 60% of natural ecosystem in India are covered with invasive plants. Invasive plants like Lantana carmara, Prosopis juliflora, Eupatorium, and Planetarium. Right. See, when they plant the juliflora, the salt water of the sea is stopped by a barrier of that. Infiltration of the saline water is stopped by creating a barrier in the coastal area. So for that reason, they planted Prosopis juliflora to protect the Asia's largest grassland patch called as Bunny grassland. Right. So Lantana has invaded huge areas, 60% of areas in all the parts of Western Ghats, including the Bandipur National Park of Karnataka, and also in many areas in the entire Western Ghats. So 40% of the tiger land areas in Bihar Temple in Karnataka is also being overtaken by Lantana. So 60% of natural habitats are completely covered by these. And lack of food, restricted movement has resulted wild animals to entering into human settlements, and this is what creating the man-animal conflict. Because these alien species, they take the complete colonization of the native species there. Is it clear? So this is where we talk about certain national parks, certain natural areas which are located in the Western Ghats, where it has become a threat, right? Now, as the invasive species has become a threat, International Union for Conservation of Nature, IUCN, has created a criteria to assess, has set up a criteria to assess the impact of the alien species on natural ecosystem. Impact of alien species in the ecosystem. And it has classified on the basis of magnitude. It has classified on the basis of magnitude of impact. And this was introduced in the year 2020. So it has classified the impact under five categories. Five categories. Five categories. Minimal concern, that is very limited or no concern, to massive impact. And in between that, minor, moderate, and major. So impact categories are five. Remember, minimal concern, minor, moderate, major, and massive. Is it clear? So please remember this data. Now this question was asked in the prelims 2023. Invasive species specialist group that develops global invasive species database belongs to which one of the following organization? It was released by the IUCN. Now remember, IUCN also releases the red list. IUCN also releases the red list, which classifies 9 categories. And IUCN also releases the impact of alien species, and it consists of 5 impact categories. 5 impact categories. Is that clear? Okay. Now next, we move on to something called as snow leopard. It is also called as ghost of mountains. Now, snow leopard always prefer to stay in steep and rugged terrain. They prefer to stay in steep and rugged terrain. Mountain areas, very steep and rugged terrains. Right. Now, these snow leopards, they prefer to stay in the elevation 3,000 to 5,000 meters. Elevation 3,000 to 5,000 meters. They always stay in the height. Now, what happens is, when the summer season is there, during the summer season, they ascend. During the summer season, they move up for the need of food. And during the winter season, they descend down. During that, they descend down. Now, these snow leopards, they're referred as ghost of mountains, and they are also referred as ounce. They are also referred as the ounce, right? Now, apart from that, they can't roar like lion and tiger, so they cannot roar. They cannot roar. Now, when we talk about their IUCN category, in IUCN category, they are classified as vulnerable. In IUCN, they're referred as vulnerable. And these are found in Central and South Asia. Their inhabitants are, ounce means a name given to them. It's a scientific name which is given to them. So just remember, they are also referred as the ounce, the pronunciation which was used to decode them, right? Then apart from that, these species, snow leopards, they are also referred as keystone species or umbrella species. They are keystone species or umbrella species. It means that protecting of these species will protect the other species. So protecting of these species will help in protecting other species. Help in protecting other species. So if you remove this keystone species from the ecosystem, then the whole ecosystem collapses. If you remove this ecosystem, sorry, if you remove the keystone species, then the whole ecosystem collapses. Right. So remember something about that. Now, in the context of India, when we talk about the snow leopards, so snow leopards are found in India's states Uttarakhand, Himachal Pradesh, Sikkim, and Arunachal. It is found in 4 states and 2 union territories, that is Ladakh and Jammu and Kashmir. Jammu and Kashmir. Now, sometimes they may ask about the national parks which are located there. Now, if you take in Ladakh, now more specifically, when you talk about the Ladakh, in the Ladakh, these snow leopards are found in a national park called as Hemis National Park. So, in Ladakh, they are found in Hemis National Park. Right. Now, this Hemis National Park is the largest national park of India. It is largest national park of India. And not only it is the largest national park, it is also the highest altitude national park of India. It is also the highest altitude national park of India. Right. Then we also have an area which is very predominantly seen in Arunachal Pradesh. Now, in this Arunachal Pradesh, which is border with a country called as Myanmar, which has a border with Myanmar. Now, here we find one national park, which has flying squirrels are there, and this is called as Namdapha National Park. In Arunachal Pradesh. Now, the unique characteristic of this Namdapha National Park is it is the only national park on the earth. It is the only national park or only restricted or only protected area on the earth where we find 4 big cats are seen. Where 4 big cats are seen. And these 4 big cats are, the first one is tiger, the second one is leopard, third one is snow leopard, and fourth one is clouded leopard. Clouded leopard. Now, sometimes when they ask in the prelims, you should be very clear. So it is the only national park in the world, only protected area in the world where we find all the 4 cats are seen. And these 4 cats are the tiger, the leopard, the snow leopard, and the clouded leopard in this national park called as Namdapha National Park. So clouded leopard is also a type of a leopard where the size is comparatively smaller and the designs of the skin is comparatively larger spots than what you find in the snow leopard. So clouded leopards are also seen. Is it clear? Now here, when we talk about the census which has been carried regarding the snow leopards, the data reveal that it is the first ever snow leopard population assessment conducted by Wildlife Institute of India between 2019 and 23. And this is based with Mysore based Conservation Foundation and Wildlife Institute of India, where the two key partners. One is from Mysore and second one is Wildlife Institute of India, Dehradun. Places in the news: Dehradun, Mysore based nature conservation. The snow leopards are found in the elevations, and India has an estimated of 718 snow leopards, which is around 10 to 15% of the global population. Ladakh leads with 477, and these are the other areas where they are found. Now, an effort has been done to protect and conserve these. And we have two major projects. One is the project Snow Leopard is found in all the 4 states and 2 union territories. 4 states and 2 union territories where the snow leopard is being. It is to protect and conserve them. Collection of the data, recording their footprints, identifying the major issues there, check any diseases spreading in that areas, maintain their progress. So such projects are there. And also India has joined 11 countries in the global snow leopard ecosystem protection program. So in prelims, if they ask whether India is part of this or not, so you should be remembering them. See, there are many national parks, there are many wildlife sanctuaries. But if those national parks or if any wildlife sanctuaries, if they are seen in the current affairs, if they are seen in the news for 1 year or 2 year, then you can make a list of those. Right. The foremost suggestion in the report is improving the landscape level management. So these all are facts. You don't have to by heart them. They are all facts. Don't elaborate. Please don't elaborate them. And you don't need to explain them also. Keep them as reference as it is. Improving the landscape level. And they have identified that the landscapes, three priority landscapes will be the region surrounding the 4 states and union territories only. They are identified as Himis, Spiti in Ladakh, and Himachal Pradesh. This is one landscape. Second one is Nanda Devi Gangotri in Uttarakhand. And the third one is Kanchenjunga, Tawang across Sikkim and Arunachal Pradesh. So these are the three landscapes where they will be making effort to protect and conserve them. Then their fertility rate is very, very less. Their fertility rate is very, very less. The female snow leopard generally gives birth to only 1 or 2 cubs once in 2 years. Sometimes they may ask the direct statements in prelims. In the prelims. So this is all about the snow leopard, right? Now, golden langur, which is again in the news, the species which is in the news. Now, when you talk about the golden langur, its IUCN status is endangered. Endangered. Right. Now, very specific about this is it changes the color of its fur. It changes the color of its fur. From season to season. Right. Season to season. And also the color changes from young to the old one. Young to old. Unique characteristic is they change the color of their fur, right? And these golden langurs, they are plant eating, that is, they are herbivore. They are herbivore. And in India, they are found more specifically in the northeastern part. In India, they are found in the northeastern part. And more specifically, we can find them in Assam. Assam. And within Assam, an area is there which is referred as Kakizona Reserve. Kakizona Reserve, where we find the number of the golden langurs are more here. So please remember this. So they are herbivore, they are endangered species, they change the color of their fur. Fur means their hairs, season to season and young to old. And they are found in India and Bhutan. So they are not only in India, even in Bhutan also. So they are native to India plus Bhutan. They are native to India and Bhutan. Very factual data, right? And the survey was conducted. And according to survey, the population of these endangered golden langur has increased to more than 1,000. And the major reason for their deaths, the major reason for their deaths is forced abortion and infanticides. Forced abortion and infanticide are the major problems for decreasing their numbers. They live anywhere between 3,000 meters above the sea level, and they thrive high up in the canopies of subtropical and temperate broadleaf forest. These all are factual data. Factual data. Don't elaborate them. Sometimes they may ask only this part. Trichopithecus ghee. Trichopithecus ghee. So it is the scientific name, and the normal name is golden langur. It is its scientific name. And remember, it is classified as the world's top 25 most endangered primate species, primitive species. So primate species means gibbons, it includes gorillas, it includes many such. So primates. See, abortion is, yes, you can say abortion in the sense it is one of the way of reducing the impact of man-animal conflict, reduce their part. Yeah, you can say totem in a simple part. Kovari species. Kovari is a marsupial, carnivorous marsupial. Right. Now it is found in Australia, Queensland, and northeastern part of Australia. Very less species are there, 20% of its normal range. They are the skilled hunters, and they are always seen in the gibber plains, small trees and gibber plains. It is not abortion themselves, it is by a communities to reduce their numbers. Reduce their numbers. And here they always have a threat includes degradation, predation, and other species there. But the unique thing about these species is that they always enter into a state of torpor. They go into the state of torpor. Now, what is torpor? In the context of extreme weather conditions, we find animal species adapt, and we refer them as something called as hibernation or brumation. That is long-term adaptation. In the context of animals, we find long-term adaptations are there. Hibernation and brumation. Now, in the same way, certain animals they go for short-term adaptation. Short term adaptation, they become dormant. They reduce their body temperature. They reduce their respiration rates. They enter into state of dormancy for a very short period of a time, maybe due to shortage of food, maybe because of extreme weather condition. So short-term adaptation is referred as torpors. Many animals perform that. Example, hummingbird also does this. Hummingbird also does this. Now, whenever there is a severe cold or where there is a shortage of the food, this hummingbird, it makes upside down, it hangs upside down, by which it can protect and preserve its energy. So such types of adaptation we refer them as torpors. Is it clear? So please remember these parameters. So when we talk, they are found in the Australian part. They are found in the Australian part, right? Endangered species. Now, Tyler Prize. This Tyler Prize in the year 2024 was given to John Rockstein. Now remember, it is commonly referred as Environment's Nobel Prize. Environment's Nobel Prize. Now remember this, you have studied in your many geographical part something called as tipping points. Something called as tipping points. Tipping points of the planets, which talks about 9 systems. Which talks about 9 systems. 9 systems. So this person, John Rockstone, was one of the member of this group, a leading member, who has made the planetary boundaries, which talks about something called as tipping points, threshold points. If the Earth crosses these tipping points, then it is very difficult to recover back. If Earth crosses these tipping points, then it is very difficult to recover. It is very difficult to recover. And he has given the maximum threshold points, threshold limit to that. The maximum threshold limit to 9 planetary systems. Right. So just remember that. The planetary boundaries is an international collaboration, and it talks about the resilience and prevalence of the life, preserving the life. And it talks about the limits which are required to maintain or to sustain the life. We need to keep ourselves within these threshold limits. And it was featured in the Netflix documentary called as Breaking Boundaries, the Science of Our Planet. Right. And the paper is referred as Planet Boundaries Framework. This framework serves as an compass guiding humanity to maintain the planet within the safe operational zone, which is referred as tipping points. And it has given the data for 9 Earth systems. For 9 Earth systems. And these 9 Earth systems are climate change, biodiversity loss, ocean acidification, ozone depletion, atmospheric aerosol pollution, freshwater usages, biogeochemical cycle, land system change, and release of novel chemicals. So it talks about 9 systems. 9 systems. Earth systems. If we cross them, if we cross the limit, then it is very difficult to reverse back the impact of that on the Earth system. So this is generally referred as all the parameters in the context of carbon dioxide. when we talk about climate change. They say that the ideal value for the carbon dioxide is somewhere around 350 parts per million. And if it crosses that, then it is very difficult to maintain the Paris Agreement. So such points we refer them as the tipping points in the context. They will never ask you in detail about what are the tipping points until and unless specific. Ocean acidification means due to the impact of carbon dioxide. When large amount of carbon dioxide enters into the ocean water, so it creates a carbonic acid. And we refer that as ocean acidification. And when you talk about average acidic or average pH value of ocean water is 8.2. And because of the carbon dioxide which is sequestered in the ocean, it is falling very, very low. And always remember, these are expressed in logarithmic values, negative logarithm of hydrogen, right? Now, these terms are important: novel entities and atmospheric aerosol loading. Novel entities are nanoplastics, microplastics, which have been released because of anthropogenic factors, right? So they are microplastics, nanoplastics, which are released by human activities, which enter into the human digestive tracts, which becomes a threat to them. We refer them as novel entities. Microplastics, endocrine disruptors, nuclear waste, which have increased due to man-made activities. Then atmospheric aerosol loading. It means it is the particle of air pollution which originates from fossil fuels, combustion, wildfires, and dust. So generally we refer them as black carbon and brown carbon. Black and brown carbon, which is due to burning of fossil fuel and burning of biomass. Land system change means deforestation. Land system change means deforestation. So when we talk about land change means deforestation. And converting the area for agriculture pacts. Converting the area for agriculture. And using the areas for human settlements. Using the areas for human settlements. We refer that as land changing pattern. Now, in the present context, we find deforestation and forest degradation has been increased. We refer that as land change system. Right. Now, here it talks about many such parameters. For example, if you talk about carbon dioxide, it says that 350 parts per million is the threshold limits to keep the carbon dioxide. And if you see the present data, as per 2023 and 24, the concentration of carbon dioxide in the Earth's atmosphere has crossed 400 parts per million. And it is somewhere around 417 parts per million. ppm means parts per million. And it is very difficult to make sure the Paris Agreement to happen here. Because under the Paris Agreement, we made an effort, or we are making an effort to keep the global temperature to well below, to keep the global temperature well below 2 degrees centigrades, or else to keep it to 1.5 degrees centigrade. So hence, as it has reached to 417 parts per million, so there is very difficulty to maintain the Paris Agreement. The global average temperature, according to the calculation, is somewhat rising to 2 to 3% at the end of 2100. So hence, this 9 systems and the threshold which is given by him is very important to maintain the Earth's stability. That's why it says that the only way to return the safe one is to make sure that all the planetic boundaries should be accepted and we should reduce our ecological footprint. We should reduce ecological footprint. But what is ecological footprint? It is amount of productive land and water which is required to produce the resources, consume the resources, and also to dispose the waste which are generated, or assimilate the waste generated by that. And this can be done by reducing the usage, reusage, reuse, reducing the waste. It means don't increase the waste, reuse them. Water, reuse that for one time, two time, right? So reduce your ecological footprint, reduce the population, decrease the population, right? So that ecological footprints increases. Sorry, ecological footprint decreases. So the demand has to decrease with decreasing population, decreasing in the needs, reusing, recycling, solid waste management, making solid waste management, etc. So only by that we can reach to a point where the earth can be referred as a stable part. So hence, for this research paper, he received a prize, an award which is called as the Tyler Prize. Now next is biotrig. Biotrig is a term which is referred in the short called as the biomass trigeneration. Biomass trigeneration. Right. Now, the moment when you talk about the biotrig, it is concerned with a rural part of India. In the rural India. In the rural India, we always find the major issues are biomass. Biomass means the stubbles, residues of the crops. Stubble, or we refer them as residue of the crop. Then indoor air pollution. Indoor air pollution, which lead to death of many women and children's before reaching their life expectancy. In the rural India, we always find there is a shortage of electricity, shortage of power or electricity. Then in the agriculture sector, nutrients are less. In the agriculture sector, less nutrients in the soil. It means the yield is very, very less, which is seen as one of the major problems in the rural India. Now, to find a solution to this, an innovation has been done. Innovation was introduced. And this innovation is something to accumulate all the biomass, the stubble, the waste, and burn that, accumulate all the biomass, that is stubbles, residues, etc., and burn that more than 400 degrees centigrades. Burn at more than 400 degrees centigrade in the absence of oxygen. In absence of oxygen. And this is called as pyrolysis. Pyrolysis. In the absence of oxygen. And this is not individual, it is community led. It is community led. And this pyrolysis, when it is done, it gives rise to three end products. and that is called as biomass trigeneration. It gives rise to three end products. We refer that as biomass trigeneration, and these end products are biochar, bio oil, and syngas. Syngas. Right. Now, all the three important products are seen. Now, biochar is very predominant. Biochar means biomass charcoal. Biomass charcoal. Bio trigeneration is burning of not only wood, any biomass, wood, crop residues, plant residues, the dead plants, everything when you burn, we refer that as biomass. Don't take only the wood. Wood along with any type of biomass, residues and all, which is seen in the rural economy. Is it clear? So biomass charcoal, or we refer that as biochar. Now, what is the importance of biochar? So this biochar is very important because it is used in filtration of the water filtration. Right. And this biochar, it absorbs more amount of atmospheric carbon dioxide. So hence, it sequesters carbon dioxide. It absorbs more amount of carbon dioxide. So hence, it absorbs carbon sequestration. Sequestration. When this biochar is added to the soil, it increases the fertility of the soil. Increase fertility of the soil. Fertility of the soil. Right. So all these are benefits of the biochars. And bio oil and syngas, they are used for development of energy. Now, when we talk about syngas consists of the combination of carbon monoxide and hydrogen. Carbon monoxide and hydrogen, which will not be having any impact on the pollution. Right. So this innovative approach is referred as biotrig. This is referred as biotrig, which finds an innovative solution for solid waste management. Solid waste management with pyrolysis, and it also provides solution for the rural electricity power aspect, and also it provides a solution for clean energy in the rural parameters. A waste generated technology which includes pyrolysis, and it will reduce the greenhouse gas emission from communities by nearly 350 kgs. So it sequesters the carbon dioxide in the form of biochar. The syngas and bio oil. Syngas means combination of carbon monoxide and hydrogen. And bio oil would help to heat up the power. Electrification in the rural areas. Right. And the clean burning bio oil could be used for further progress of heating that, which can replace the dirty cooking fuel, so that indoor pollution is reduced. Right. So these are referred as the biotrig and its perspectives. So in a thematic, all type of biomass, it can be wood or it can be stubbles. When you burn them with absence of oxygen, bio oil, electricity, and biochar as introduced a very innovative method in the context of solid waste management. Is that clear? Okay. Now, Orans, again, this was in the news. Orans, Devans, and Runs. So, Oran is nothing but it is a sacred grove. Sacred grove of Rajasthan. So in India, many states are there where we find large amount of sacred groves are there. Now, sacred groves are very important aspect of conservation. They are considered as very important and traditional method of conservation of forests, conservation and protection of forests. And while conserving the and protecting the forest, they also use the minor products of forest resources. The local people, they use the forest resources also. Now, generally, these sacred groves are referred as the abode of gods for the local people. They worship them as abode of God. They have their religious beliefs attached to these sacred groves. They have their religious beliefs attached to these sacred groves. And while worshipping that, they protect and conserve the local resources. And such types of the sacred groves, we find them in Karnataka, we find them in Kerala, Tamil Nadu, and all the states. And one which is in the news is Orans, which is in Rajasthan. And this was in the news because the government made an declaration to the state government to try to find them to give the status of deemed forest. Now, the deemed forests are like forest, which has the characteristics, but they're not recorded as forest in the government datas, right? So they are the characteristics of forest, but they are neither notified nor recorded in the government revenues. Now, Orans are the sacred groves of Rajasthan, Devans are the sacred forest, and Rundas are the traditionally conserved open forest. And the community believes that if they are classified under the deemed forest, then the communities will be deprived of the minor forest resources, and it will also hurt their religious sentiments because they will not be allowed into enter into the protected areas. So please remember about these Orans. Right. And this is the definition which is given by the Godavarman case. Right. So according to the Godavarman case, the government has said the concerned state governments, the central government has given the authority to state governments to declare any protected area as deemed forest. Now it is the authority of state government to declare any such region as the deemed forests. Right. Now, species in the news. Begonia nerihari. Now remember, if they ask, it is a plant. It is a plant. Newly discovered species of flowering plant in the Arunachal Pradesh, more specifically Lohit district. Lohit districts. It is named after a person who played a key role in establishing germoplasm conservation. It shows unique iridescence, lightning, lights, a bright blue light when it exposed to the light. And as it is newly identified, as it is newly identified, its IUCN status is data deficient. We don't have much data about that. So it is data deficient. It is data deficient, right? So don't make in-depth analysis. This is factual. Arunachal Pradesh, flower, data deficient. Species of flower, Lohit district, Arunachal Pradesh, data deficient. Now, many such facts are to be covered. For example, in the recently we come across something called as uh, Vasuki indicus. Now, what is Vasuki indicus? Vasuki indicus is a fossil of the largest snake which was identified or discovered in the state of Gujarat in 2005, and it has been confirmed in 2024. So such facts or such questions can be asked, like, what is this Vasuki indicus? So Vasuki indicus is a name given to the snake which was existing in India some 50 million years, and the fossil of that snake is been identified in the year 2005. Now it has been confirmed that it is a fossil of a snake. So such direct questions can be asked in your examination, right? Vasuki indicus. Direct question can be asked. So this is a fossil snake. Now remember, it is the largest snake ever found on the earth. And this is 50 million years old. Now for that, you don't need any interpretation. You have to be very careful in which state it was found, sorry, which state it was seen, and what it talks about. Direct questions will be there. Vasuki indicus, fossilized snake in Gujarat, and it is the largest snake. Right now, Kaziranga, where we find two new species have been identified. Uh, Oran is important. See, generally the name given to that sacred groves is Oran because these Rajasthan, they are always areas where watershed management is very, very important. And these Orans are the types of plants which provide certain types of food fiber to the local people. And also they are one of the major sources of conservation of the water or wetlands in that areas. So the group of vegetation which are there, we refer them as Orans. Kaziranga, two new species were identified. One is this Binturang arcticus. Now remember, it is the largest civet, cat-like species. Cat-like species, right? A mammal which is South and Southeast Asia, native to South and Southeast Asia. It is nocturnal, that is night movement, and it is arboreal. Arboreal means it is always staying on the land. Sorry, in the trees. Trees. In India, it is known to have distributed in the northeastern part. Very factual data. It has assessed as vulnerable. Vulnerable by IUCN. And it is the largest civet in India. Civet means cat-like species. We refer that as civet. This is one. Binturang or Archytas binturong. Then the second one is small clouded otter. Small clouded otter, right? The small clouded otter species, it is the smallest one. It is spread in many countries, South Asia, southern China. It is listed under Schedule 1 of IUCN, sorry, of wildlife, and it is vulnerable species in IUCN red list. Now, when we talk about this otter is a keystone species. Keystone species, and generally this keystone species protects the kelp forests. Kelp forest. Now what is kelp forest? Kelp forest is a type of a vegetation which is inside the ocean bodies. So here you are having the ocean, and these type of vegetation, we refer them as kelp forests. kelp forest. Primate means primitive, primitive, right? Now, this otter, it feeds on the urchins which eat up the kelp forest. So these otter, they eat the urchins. And these urchins are the organisms which harms the kelp forest, So kelp forests are the vegetations which are found at the shoreline near the coastal areas, but inside the water. So we refer them as kelp forest, inside water, in the shallow waters. We refer them as kelp forest. Is that clear? So these otters, they are keystone species which protect these kelp forest, and these kelp forest, they become food for many species. And also, if the kelp forest is there, then it will absorb more carbon sequestration. It will absorb more carbon dioxide sequestration. So hence, these otters plays an important role in maintaining the ecosystem, and these are always having a threat due to their habitat destruction, poaching, etc. Right. Now, Covid gibbon. So this Covid gibbon is also in the news, and this Covid gibbon is having a scientific name called as Namascus nastus, and it shows sexual dimorphism. It means male is different color and female is different color. Dimorphism, right? So male is black and female is different color. Male and female different colors, and these are the primates, and they are having the capacity of singing, that is vocal. Vocal means they can sing more, and this intelligence level is very less, so they have low intelligence capacity compared to chimpanzee. Low intelligence compared to chimpanzee, etc. Right. Now, according to IUCN, these are classified as critically endangered. Critically endangered. Right. Now, certain facts about these are, they show the sexual dimorphism where males are black and females are brown. They are the only primitive species vocalize or sing to protect their habitat, to protect their habitats. Right. So these are the world's second rarest primates. The world's rarest primate is the Hainan gibbons. Hainan gibbons. Now, the major problem associated with them is habitat loss, hunting, along with slow rate of reproduction, very low fertility of that. Primate means old mammal. Primitive mammal, primitive. One of the most critically endangered apes in the world. See, primate, when we say, oldest mammal plus highest order mammal. highest order mammals like chimpanzees, apes, gibbons, etc. So we refer them as primates. And they are found in Vietnam and South China. Vietnam and South China. Facts. Oldest mammals and highest order mammals. Highest order mammals. Now, AMOC and Antarctic Circumpolar Current. Now, this is linked with your geography, but again, understand. In a brief, I'll explain this. So, when we talk about the global conveyor belt, so global conveyor belt is the movement of ocean water from one ocean to another ocean. And this global conveyor belt is the movement of ocean water. Movement of ocean water. So it is interbasin, one basin to another basin. And this is induced. This is induced by the density. It is induced by density. And remember, the density of ocean water is the combined factor of temperature and salinity. Density is the combined factor of salinity and temperature. So please remember this. Combined salinity and temperature. So this combined aspect of salinity and temperature makes the vertical movement of ocean water, that is upwelling, downwelling, and also the horizontal movement based on density driven. This is based on density driven. If the water is more denser, it will sink. Dense water will sink. We refer that as downwelling. Less dense water will move up. We refer that as upwelling. And this entire phenomenon is referred as thermohaline circulation. Thermohaline circulation, which includes ocean currents. Which includes ocean currents. Which makes the movement of ocean water surface as well as vertical, upward and downward. Upward and downward. And this global conveyor belt talks about the movement of water from Pacific Ocean to Atlantic Ocean to Indian Ocean, then Arctic Ocean, and also Southern Ocean. Southern Ocean. So it is the movement of the ocean water, movement of ocean water from one ocean to another ocean. And this global conveyor belt plays an important role in climate regulation. Climate regulation. Now, in this global conveyor belt, many two subdivisions are there, or many divisions are there. Two subdivisions which are very important is the one which is there in the Atlantic Ocean. We refer that as AMOC, or Atlantic Meridional Overturning Current. Atlantic Meridional Overturning Current. It starts from the Gulf Stream. Which carries the warm water towards from tropics towards the polar region, and cold water sinks and comes back towards the equator. So it carries the warm water towards the poles, cold water sinks and again comes back towards the equator. So we refer that as AMOC. So this is Gulf Stream, which carry the warm water and cold water downward. So we refer that as Atlantic meridional overturning current. This is one part. So first we'll understand what is this AMOC and impact of global warming and climate change. Atlantic meridional overturning current. Now, we know that the ocean water is thermohaline circulation. It is thermohaline circulation. Now, in the context of AMOC, due to increasing of the temperature, we find melting of ice is there, and this is adding fresh water. And whenever fresh water is added, the salinity decreases. Fresh water decreases salinity. This is one. Second, due to increasing of the temperature, due to more amount of carbon dioxide which is entering, the ocean water is becoming warm. When the ocean water becomes warm, then again it loses its density. The water expands and lose its density. So because of these two reasons, due to this climate change, as the water loses its density, will it sink? It is not possible to sink. So hence its sinking capacity is reduced. And that may lead to decreasing its speed, which will lead to decrease its speed. And it may lead to halt of AMOC. Now, if the Atlantic meridional overturning current stops, what will happen? The entire northern Europe, so this region where the warm water reaches, entire northern Europe will experience extreme cold. Entire northern Europe will experience extreme cold. Right. Plus, it will affect the movement of nutrients in the ocean. Nutrient movement is affected because the sinking capacity is decreased. So it will affect the productivity, like fishing activities are hampered where the warm and cold ocean currents meets. So it affects fishing activity. And it can also lead to loss of biodiversity. Right. And the present climatic model is suggesting that this Atlantic meridional overturning current is reducing its speed. It is reducing. And this becomes a threat for the global ocean. So this is first part. Atlantic meridional overturning current. Now the second part is very interesting, which is referred as Antarctic circumpolar current. Now the Antarctic circumpolar current is nothing but it is a southern ocean. It is the southern ocean. And this Antarctic circumpolar current is referred as the largest ocean current in the world. Largest ocean current in the world. It transfers the water from the three big oceans, that is Pacific Ocean to Indian Ocean and Atlantic Ocean. So while transferring the water, it is interbasin transfer. it transfer the water from Pacific to Indian to Atlantic. It not only transfers the nutrients, it also transfers carbon dioxide from one to another ocean. And it also transfers the species there. It means transfer of biology. Transfer. So hence it plays a very important role in inter-basin transfer of ocean water. And it is driven by westerlies. In ocean currents, we refer that as western wind drift. We refer that as western wind drift. Now, the impact of climate change is seen here. They have collected the data of some millions of years, and they found that due to increasing of the temperature, due to increase of the temperature, where the AMOC was reducing its speed, this Antarctic circumpolar current is gaining its velocity. It is increasing in the speed. Increasing in the speed. Now, what happens when the speed increases? Large amount of warm water will enter to the Antarctic. Large amount of warm water will enter into the Antarctic shelf. And what is the impact of warm water? They will accelerate the melting of glacier in Antarctica. Accelerate the melting of glacier in Antarctica. So hence, the impact of climate change on the global conveyor belt is AMOC is decreasing its velocity, whereas the circumpolar current is increasing its speed. So please remember the two contrast. AMOC is decreasing and Antarctic circumpolar current is increasing its velocity, which has posed the threat. Right. So it plays a key role in global climate, interbasin exchange of heat, carbon dioxide from Indian, Pacific, and Atlantic Ocean. It is clockwise and it carries huge bulk of water. And the data has shown that it has gained strength by 40% in last 4 decades due to the climate change. And this make the warm deep water to reach to Antarctica. And this warm water will enhance the melting of glacier in Antarctica. So the thick ice which is deposited in Antarctica is having the threat. So remember, AMOC is decreasing and the circumpolar or the circumantarctic current is increasing, which has a threat to this region. Then state of global climate. Now the state of global climate is released by World Meteorological Department. A very important data which was released by World Meteorological Department last week. It has said that 2023 was the warmest year where the average temperature is close to 1.5 degrees compared to pre-industrial level. Pre-industrial means 1850 to 1900. And here it has replaced the 2016 as the warmest calendar year. And according to this ERA5 data, ERA5 means it is a data which is given by fifth generation. So it is fifth generation data. Of climate and weather. Climate and weather. And it provides hourly estimate. It provides hourly estimates. And this data is released. This is released. The ERA5 is released by Copernicus Climate Change Service. Copernicus Climate Change Service, C35. Right. And here it says that the average temperature is continuously increasing in spite of all the mitigation and adaptation. And the data says that 2023 was zero point 0.6 degrees warmer than 1991 and 2020. And it says that all the 365 days were above 1 degree centigrade. All the 365 days were above 1 degree centigrade. Now these are days. These are days and these are the years. So if you take the data of 2023, if you take the data of 2023, all 365 days have shown the temperature of 1 degree centigrade. So it is very difficult to conclude the Paris Agreement. Right. Now, high sea surface temperature, SST means sea surface temperature. High sea surface temperatures are seen in the North Atlantic and in all the areas which are responsible for increasing of the cyclones in that areas. Unprecedented sea surface temperatures were associated with marine heat waves. Now, what is marine heat waves? Marine heat waves means increasing of the temperature of ocean water. Increasing the temperature of patch of ocean water. Patch of ocean water continuously for more than 5 days. Continuously for more than 5 days. So this temporary increase in the temperature of ocean water, we refer that as marine heat waves. So if this is an ocean water, so in this ocean water, a patch of water, so this patch of ocean water will have high temperature. Say this has a temperature of 30 degrees centigrade and the temperature of the surrounding. So this is somewhere around 20 degrees or 25 degrees. So this small patch, the small patch where the temperature suddenly increases, we refer that as the marine heat waves. And this is generally because the mixing do not takes place due to climate change. The density is affected. The mixing of the water is reduced. So it is the region where mixing of hot and cold water is reduced. Mixing of hot and cold water is reduced. This is one. Second, maybe due to large amount of carbon dioxide sequestration. Large amount of carbon dioxide sequestration, which is making the huge impact. So we find many oceans are experiencing marine heat waves. Now, in the context of India, also we find marine heat waves are there. And in the context of India, marine heat waves are seen typically in the West Arabian and in the northern part of Bay of Bengal. So these are the marine heat waves which are seen in the Indian Ocean, Western Arabian and in the north. Now they are the regions which are having high temperature. So hence they affect the wind pattern. So marine heat waves affect wind pattern. And hence in Indian Ocean, they may affect monsoon as well. So hence Indian Ocean, they can affect monsoon winds also. Because marine heat waves are low pressure centers. Temperature is inversely proportional to pressure. So they are low pressure centers which can trigger the extreme low temperature. low pressure in that area, sorry, which can pull the winds towards that. So it may affect the monsoon. So hence we find large amount of oceans are developing marine heat waves. And also the triple dip La Nina, which was ended up in the year 2023. And the El Nino triggered high temperature. El Nino triggered high temperature. This is what they are seeing. Now, the last point is a large number of extreme events were recorded, including heat waves, floods, droughts, and wildfires were there. Wildfires are there, right? Now, estimated global wildfires, carbon emissions were increased 30%. Apart from that, it also was responsible for increasing of the atmospheric rivers. Now, what do you mean by atmospheric rivers? When the water evaporates, this is the large water body. Now, from here, the water evaporates. So this water evaporates and reaches to the upper atmosphere. And from there, by the wind, it is carried away. By the wind, it is carried away. Right. So this water vapor, which is carried by the wind in the atmosphere, so we refer them as atmospheric river. So it is the large volume of water vapor carried by winds in the atmosphere. We refer them as atmospheric rivers, and generally they are carried from tropics to outside. They are carried from tropics where large evaporation are there to outside. Tropics to outside. And very classical example of the atmospheric river is the one which was seen in the Pacific Ocean. In the Pacific Ocean, if you see here, this is tropical area. So here you are having Hawaiian Island. And this Hawaiian Island is known for growing pineapples. Known for growing pineapples. Now here large amount of evaporation from the water surrounding the Hawaiian, which created a large amount of accumulation of water vapor. And due to the impact of westerlies, so this was carried away towards America, that is towards California and Canada. And this atmospheric river, it collided with the mountains there and created heavy rainfall. Heavy precipitation, because moisture collides with the mountain and create orographic impact and provide heavy rainfall there. And this is referred as Pineapple Express. So this is Pineapple Express. So Pineapple Express is an example of one atmospheric river. Pineapple Express is an example of atmospheric river which carries the moisture from surrounding area of Hawaiian towards the west coast of America, that is California and Canada, which created heavy precipitation in the month of February 2024, which created flash floods. So such types of atmospheric rivers have also increased due to that. So that's why Canada and California, they're experiencing heavy rainfall. So such events we refer them as atmospheric rivers. So it is water vapor which is traveling in the Earth's atmosphere due to the wind directions. Right. So the atmospheric concentration, this is the last topic I'll be discussing. The atmospheric concentration of carbon dioxide and methane is continued to be increased here. So these are the facts. And here it says that the atmospheric concentration of methane in 2023 were higher than whatever data we are having from 8 lakh years back. And migration and displacement due to climate led. So we refer them as climate refugees. climate refugees are there, right? And we find large amount of climate refugees are seen, and they are affecting the sustainable development goals. So regarding 17 goals, the goal number 3, their well-being, goal number 3, inequality, clean energy, all these are seen due to the impact of climate change. So climate change is bringing huge amount of losses, that is socio economic losses are there, right? Large losses are there because of the impact of climate change. So this report was given a week ago, very important in the context of your studies, right? So we'll conclude that. So this Arlakum Desert, it is the world's youngest desert. Again, it is in the current affairs. So another two topics are left out. So I'll take it up clubbing with the next week's topics. So next month again, you will be having the ecology and environment. So there I'll cover more factual data. I'll try to bring up all the factual data in one slides so that you can make and references of them, important national parks or important places which are there in the news. So sometimes when we find them explanations, so they are also very important. So this Arlakum Desert is one such. It was a region where we have Aral Sea, and this Aral Sea was the one of the largest saline water in the Central Asia. And because of man-made irrigation facilities, the two rivers which carried the water to this area, they made diverted for irrigation. And the rivers were diverted for irrigation, the entire Aral Sea become dried enough. And that created the desert. And that is referred as the world's youngest desert. Ecological disaster, ecological disaster, or man-made desert. But the major problem here with the desert is its dust. So we'll understand what is dust and other parts. What is the impact of dust and other things? So this is one topic which is left out. Then Chipko movement, which has completed its 50 years. Chipko movement, hugging trees. And this Chipko movement, it got something from Bishnoi or Amrita Devi. So it is inspired by Amrita Devi's, which is also called as Bishnoi movement. And here women's participation was seen. We'll discuss about Chipko movement very briefly, 5 minutes or 10 minutes of that. Then a species called as the golden snathus, and then explanation about the beast from the east. This is associated with some geographical part. So these are the three topics which are left out. So in beginning of half an hour, we'll cover that, and remaining 1.5 hours, I'll take up factual data in the context of next month's ecology and environment. I'll try to complete what many things are there. Uh, I'll take up all those parts. I'll take up all those factual data and I'll cover. So if it is feasible, I'll extend for another 15-20 minutes next next month when I'll be having the class. So I'll try to cover many topics, the factual data, but these are very important for your mains as well as the conceptual parts. They all are included in your geography part, which is linked with something called as the stratospheric polar vortex. So please revise your geography part. Revise your geography part, and when you reach here, it becomes easy for me to convey the statements accordingly. Right. So please revise your geography part and come back. Then we will discuss very fast more number of terminologies. So apologies for taking 7 minutes extra, but these are very important topics for your mains as well as your prelims. They are both important for your prelims as well as the mains. So we'll work on that. We will see as many as topics, very small topics, and these topics, remaining topics, half an hour plus another 1.5 or 1 hour and 40 minutes for remaining topics. Thank you and take care.